There is a specific kind of silence that arrives after every echo has faded. Not the silence of a quiet room, but the silence of a world that has stopped calling your name. You wake up one morning, and the machinery of your life, the people, the routines, the validations, has simply stopped. The phone doesn't ring. The messages don't come. The door doesn't open, and you are left standing in the middle of your own existence, surrounded by the debris of what you thought was permanent, listening to a stillness that feels less like peace and more like a verdict. In this moment, the mind does what it has been trained to do. It panics. It scans the horizon for a savior, for a distraction, for anything that will plug the leak in its sense of security. It replays conversations, dissects failures, invents scenarios where the loneliness is lifted. But the silence remains. It is unmoved by your panic. It is patient. It is waiting. Carl Gustav Jung, the great cartographer of the human soul, spent years of his own life in this exact silence. After his break with Freud, he was ostracized by the entire psychoanalytic community. He lost colleagues, friends, and his intellectual father figure. He entered a period of profound disorientation that he called his confrontation with the unconscious. For years he played with blocks like a child, painted mandalas, and descended into visions that modern psychiatry would have labeled psychosis. But from that solitary descent, he pulled up the maps that would guide millions. He understood something that the frantic world forgets. When you are completely alone, you are not in danger. You are in the delivery room. Something is trying to be born, and the labor requires that every other voice be silenced, so the first cry of the new self can be heard. If you are in that labor right now, if the contractions of solitude are squeezing you, do not push against them. This video is a guide through the 7 stages of this alchemical process. It is long because the journey is long. It is deep because the wound is deep. Stay here. The silence is not empty. It is full of you. Stage 1. The collapse of the false self. The first stage is not something you choose. It is something that happens to you. It is the collapse of the false self. For years, perhaps decades, you have been constructing a version of yourself designed to survive in the world of others. Jung called this the persona. It is the mask you wear to the office, to the family dinner, to the relationship. It is the collection of roles, behaviors, and beliefs that you have learned will get you love, approval, and safety. The persona is not inherently bad. It is a necessary social organ. But it is not the whole self. The problem arises when you begin to believe that the mask is your face, when you forget that there is a living, breathing creature behind the performance. The persona is built from external materials. It is constructed from your parents' expectations, your culture's definitions of success, your partner's needs, your friends' opinions. It is a magnificent suit of armor, but it is hollow inside. And like any structure built on borrowed land, it is vulnerable to eviction. The collapse comes when the external world stops validating the mask. A job loss doesn't just lose you income. It exposes that your identity was mortgaged to a title. A breakup doesn't just lose you a partner. It reveals that your sense of worth was rented from their approval. A period of isolation doesn't just remove company. It shows you that you were never really at home with yourself. This is the moment Jung described as the night sea journey. The hero is swallowed by the whale. Everything familiar is gone. You are in the belly of the beast, in the darkness, in the digestive juices of the unconscious. It feels like death because it is a death. The persona is dying, and you will mourn it. You will grieve the loss of the person you thought you were. The successful one, the loved one, the busy one, the important one. I recall the story of a high-level executive who had built his entire identity around his company. He was the first one in, the last one out. His phone was a permanent appendage. His value was measured in quarterly reports. When the company was acquired and his role was eliminated, he didn't just lose a job. He lost his personality. He sat at home, staring at walls, unable to answer the simple question, "What do you want to do?" He had spent 30 years doing what the role required. He had no idea what he, the man behind the mask, actually wanted. The collapse is terrifying because it confronts you with a void. You look inside expecting to find a solid core, and for a while, you find nothing. Just an echo. Just a question mark. This is not failure. This is the necessary demolition. You cannot build a cathedral on a foundation of sand. The persona was sand. The collapse is the wind that blows it away, leaving the bedrock exposed. The bedrock may be cracked. It may be covered in debris, but it is real. And for the first time in your life, you are standing on something that is actually yours. The task of this first stage is simply to endure the demolition without rushing to rebuild the same old structure. To let the mask lie on the floor. To sit in the rubble and breathe. The panic will tell you to pick up the pieces and glue them back together. The soul tells you to wait, to let the dust settle, to see what is left when the performance ends. This waiting is the hardest work you will ever do, but it is the only work that matters. Stage 2. The descent into the basement. Once the debris of the false self has settled, you find yourself standing at the top of a staircase you never noticed before. It leads down. It is dark. It smells of old things, forgotten things. This is the second stage, the descent into the basement. Jung called this place the personal unconscious. It is the storage room of your psyche, filled with everything you have pushed out of sight. Not just the traumatic memories, but the inconvenient emotions, the forbidden desires, the talents you were too scared to develop, the anger you were too polite to express, the grief you were too busy to feel. While the persona was performing on the stage of your life, this basement was locked. The door was painted over. You may have even forgotten it existed. But when the performance stops, when the applause dies, you can hear a faint scratching from below. It is what you have imprisoned, and it wants out. The descent is not a choice. It is a gravitational pull. You will find yourself, in your solitude, suddenly overwhelmed by a memory from 20 years ago that still burns. You will be washing dishes, and a wave of sadness will knock the breath out of you. You will try to watch a movie, and a scene will trigger a rage you thought you had conquered. These are not random neurological firings. These are the prisoners rattling their cages. They are demanding to be seen. Most people, when they hear this rattling, run back upstairs. They turn on the television. They open the bottle. They scroll through their phone. They do anything to drown out the noise from the basement. But you are here, in solitude, because running has become impossible. The distractions have lost their power. And so, you must descend. You must walk down the stairs. You must unlock the doors. Imagine you have a guest in your house who has been locked in a dark room for years. They are hungry. They are angry. They are confused. If you open the door and they lunge at you, your instinct is to slam it shut again. But if you open the door and simply stand there, calmly, with light, the guest will eventually stop lunging. They will blink in the unfamiliar brightness. They will begin to speak. They will tell you why they are angry. They will tell you what they need. This is the work of the second stage. You do not fight the shadow. You do not try to kill it or banish it. You simply open the door and hold the light of your awareness. You listen. Jung wrote to a correspondent, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." This is why the descent is so frightening. You will meet parts of yourself that you have been taught to despise. The part that is weak, the part that is greedy, the part that is lazy, the part that is afraid, the part that is powerful, the part that is sexual, the part that is creative. All of it has been shoved into the basement because it didn't fit the mask. The work is to say, I see you. I acknowledge that you are part of me. You are not all of me, but you are part of me. And I will no longer pretend you do not exist. There is a story from the Desert Fathers, the early Christian monks who went into the Egyptian desert to live in solitude. One monk was tormented by visions of beautiful women, by memories of his former life, by temptations of the flesh. He went to his Abba, his spiritual father, and said, "The demons will not leave me alone." The Abba smiled and said, "My son, those are not demons. Those are your passions, coming to visit you. Do not fight them. Do not indulge them. Just let them sit in the corner of your cell. Offer them a cup of tea. They will eventually tire of your hospitality and leave. This is the wisdom of the descent. You do not become the shadow. You do not act out its rage or its lust. You simply offer it the hospitality of your attention. You let it sit in the corner. You watch it. And in the watching, it loses its power over you. It transforms from a monster into a source of information. It tells you where you have been wounded. It tells you what you truly desire. It tells you what you need to heal. This stage takes time. The basement is often larger than you think. There are many rooms. But each door you open, each prisoner you acknowledge, you reclaim a piece of your own energy that was trapped in the act of repression. You become more whole, not by adding new things, but by taking back what was always yours. Stage 3. The encounter with the inner critic. As you spend more time in the basement, a specific voice will become louder than the others. It is not the voice of a prisoner. It is the voice of the jailer. This is the third stage, the encounter with the inner critic. In Jungian terms, this is often related to a negative complex, sometimes carrying the energy of a harsh father figure or a perfectionistic mother archetype. In other traditions, it is called the judge or the persecutor. It is the part of you that has taken on the job of enforcing the rules of the persona. Its job was to keep you safe by making sure you never deviated from the approved script. When you were performing well, when the mask was in place and the world was applauding, this voice was quiet. It was satisfied. But now, the mask is gone. You are in the basement. And the inner critic is furious. It sees your descent as a failure. It sees your solitude as a punishment, and it will use every tool at its disposal to drive you back upstairs, to force you to rebuild the mask. Listen to its language. You are so weak. Look at you, sitting here doing nothing. Everyone else is succeeding. You are a failure. You should be ashamed of yourself. If you had just tried harder, been smarter, been better, you wouldn't be alone. This is your fault. You are fundamentally broken. This is not the voice of truth. This is the voice of a terrified internal policeman who believes that if you don't get back in line, you will be destroyed. Its cruelty is its twisted version of love. It thinks it is saving you. The work of this stage is radical differentiation. You must learn to separate your consciousness from this voice. You must recognize that you are not your thoughts. You are the one hearing the thoughts. The critic speaks. You listen. But you do not have to agree. You do not have to argue. You simply have to observe. Imagine you are sitting in a room. In the corner, there is a radio playing a station that broadcasts nothing but insults and accusations. You're no good. You'll never make it. Everyone hates you. For your whole life you have believed that this radio is your own voice. You have sat there, absorbing every word, letting it define your reality. The work of solitude is to finally turn your head and look at the radio, to see it as an object, separate from you, to notice its tone, its patterns, its triggers, and to realize that you have the power to turn down the volume, to change the station, or simply to let it play while you get on with the business of living. You do not have to silence it by force. That just makes it scream louder. You simply stop believing it. There is a powerful concept in internal family systems therapy, which echoes Jung's work, that every part of us has a positive intention, even the critic. Ask it, what are you afraid would happen if you stopped criticizing me? The answer is often, you would become lazy and fail. You would be rejected by everyone. You would die alone. The critic is terrified of the very thing you are already experiencing, being alone. It sees your solitude as proof of its worst fears. Your job is to thank it for trying to protect you, and then gently assure it that you are safe, that you are not going to die, that you are actually in the process of being born. This negotiation with the inner critic is delicate. It requires immense self-compassion. You cannot hate the critic into submission. You cannot beat it with a stick of positivity. You must hold it, this harsh voice, with the same hospitality you offered the other prisoners. You let it sit in the corner. You offer it tea. You say, I know you're scared. I know you're trying to help. But I've got this now. You can rest. Over time, the critic softens. Its volume decreases. Its accusations become reminders. Its judgments become discernments. It transforms from a tyrant into an advisor. It no longer screams, you're a failure. It whispers, is this really aligned with your values? This transformation is one of the great victories of the solitary journey. You reclaim the energy you spent defending yourself against your own mind and redirect it toward creation. Stage 4. The withdrawal of the hooks. With the basement somewhat organized, and the critic transformed from a screaming tyrant into a quiet advisor, you begin to surface. You look at the world again. But you look with new eyes, and what you see is a landscape littered with hooks. This is the 4th stage, the withdrawal of the hooks. For your entire life, you have been walking through the world with hundreds of tiny hooks protruding from your psyche. These hooks were made of your unmet needs, your unhealed wounds, your unacknowledged shadows. And as you walked, people and situations would catch on these hooks. Someone would offer a hint of validation, and the hook of your need for approval would catch, and you would be pulled toward them. Someone would criticize you, and the hook of your shame would catch, and you would be pulled into a spiral of self-doubt. Someone would ignore you, and the hook of your fear of abandonment would catch, and you would be pulled into anxiety. You believed you were reacting to them, but you were actually reacting to the hook they snagged. They were just the trigger. The hook was already there. Jung called this projection. You project your own inner contents onto the external world, and then you react as if those contents belong to the world. You see your own unacknowledged anger in the angry driver. You see your own unclaimed kindness in the saintly figure. You see your own potential power in the leader you admire. The world becomes a movie screen, and you are projecting your inner film onto it, forgetting that you are both the projector and the audience. The work of solitude has been, in large part, the work of withdrawing these projections. You went into the basement and reclaimed your anger. Now, when you see an angry person, you might feel compassion instead of fear. You know that anger. It lives in you too. You have integrated it. It no longer hooks you. You went into the basement and acknowledged your need for love. Now, when someone withholds affection, you might feel sad, but you don't collapse. The need for love is no longer an unexamined hook. It is a conscious desire that you can also fulfill through self-compassion. Imagine a man who has always been hooked by beautiful women. His entire life he has chased them, been devastated by them, defined his worth by their attention. In his solitude, he goes into the basement and finds not a monster, but a scared little boy who never felt seen by his mother. That little boy is the source of the hook. The beautiful women were just catching on it. When he brings awareness and compassion to that little boy, when he gives him the attention he always craved, The hook begins to dissolve. He can still appreciate beauty. He can still love a woman. But he is no longer a slave to the hook. He chooses connection, rather than being pulled into it by an invisible force. This stage is profoundly liberating. As you withdraw the hooks, other people lose their power to destabilize you. Their opinions become data, not verdicts. Their moods become weather, not climate. You can be with someone who is angry without becoming angry yourself. You can be with someone who is suffering without drowning in their suffering. You develop what the psychoanalyst Wilfred Bion called containment. You can hold your own experience, and you can hold the experience of others without being overwhelmed. This does not mean you become cold or detached. It means you become present. True presence requires the absence of hooks. If you are constantly being snagged by your own unconscious needs, you are not present with the other person. You are present with your reaction to them. When the hooks are withdrawn, you can finally see people as they are, not as triggers for your unprocessed past. Your relationships, when you choose to have them, become cleaner, lighter, and more real. You no longer need people to be a certain way for you to be okay. You are okay. And from that okayness, you can meet them in a genuine encounter. Stage 5. The construction of the inner container. You have cleared the debris. You have befriended the prisoners. You have removed the hooks. Now you have a new task. You must build something. This is the 5th stage, the construction of the inner container. For your whole life, your psyche has been like a leaking bucket. Energy poured in, but it drained out just as quickly through the holes of your dependencies, your projections, and your unexamined reactions. The work of the previous stages has been to patch the holes. Now you must reinforce the bucket. You must build a container strong enough to hold the energy of your whole self. Jung called this the process of individuation, the gradual construction of the self as the central regulating principle of the psyche. The container is your sense of self. It is the boundary between you and not you. It is the structure that allows you to say I am without adding a verbose case. And I need you to confirm it. This container is built through one thing only: kept promises to yourself. This is where the philosophy of solitude meets the gritty reality of Tuesday afternoon. When you are alone, with no one watching, no one expecting, no one praising, you have the opportunity to build integrity from the inside out. Every time you say you will wake up at 6 a.m. and you do it, you lay a brick in the container. Every time you commit to writing for an hour and you do it, you lay another brick. Every time you feel the pull of distraction, the urge to escape the silence, and you choose to sit with it instead, you mortar those bricks together. This is not about productivity for its own sake. This is about creating a self that you can trust. Trust is not built in the grand gestures. It is built in the microscopic moments of alignment between your word and your action, witnessed only by you. A person who cannot keep a promise to themselves lives in a state of perpetual self-betrayal. They cannot trust themselves, so they desperately seek others to trust them, but the trust of others will never fill the hole left by self-distrust. Think of the container as a vessel for your life force. Before, your life force leaked out through every wound, every need, every craving. You were exhausted because you were constantly leaking. Now, you are building walls. The life force begins to accumulate. It pools inside you. This is not a tightening or a constriction. It is a gathering. It is the difference between a scattered pile of water droplets and a cohesive pool. The pool has depth. It has power. It can reflect the sky. It can sustain life. There is a reason that every spiritual and psychological tradition emphasizes discipline. The Buddhists have their precepts. The Stoics have their practices. Jung had his active imagination and his mandalas. These are not punishments. They are training for the container. They are the repeated conscious choices that say to the unconscious, there is a structure here. There is a center. I am no longer just a collection of impulses reacting to the world. I am a person who chooses. In this stage, you will discover a new kind of pleasure. It is the pleasure of self-respect. It is quieter than the pleasure of praise, but it lasts longer. It doesn't depend on anyone else. It is the feeling of finishing what you started, the feeling of being reliable to yourself, the feeling of looking in the mirror and knowing that the person looking back keeps their word. This inner container becomes your home. It is portable. It is indestructible by external events. You can lose your job, and the container remains. You can lose a relationship, and the container remains. You can face criticism, and the container may shake, but it does not shatter, because it was built by you, for you, and its foundation is your own integrity. Stage 6. The birth of the inner companion. When the container is strong, when the leaks are sealed, and the structure is sound, something miraculous begins to happen. You are no longer alone. This is the 6th stage, the birth of the inner companion. You have spent all this time in solitude, and now you realize that solitude was never the right word. You were not alone. You were in the process of meeting someone. You were meeting yourself. Not the persona self, not the wounded self, not the critical self, but the essential self. The one who was there before all the roles were assigned. The one who will be there after all the roles are stripped away. Jung called this the self with a capital S. It is the totality of the psyche, the archetype of wholeness. It is the inner guiding center that has been trying to get your attention your entire life, but was drowned out by the noise of the world and the chaos of your own complexes. In the silence you have created, in the container you have built, the self can finally speak. And when it speaks, you realize you are not alone. You have never been alone. You have just been ignoring your deepest companion. This is not a hallucination. It is not a voice from outside. It is the experience of being fundamentally okay in your own presence. It is the feeling that the one who is asking the questions and the one who is answering are somehow the same. It is the deep, wordless knowing that you are enough, not because you have achieved anything, but simply because you exist. The inner companion is the part of you that witnesses your life without judgment. It watched you collapse in stage 1, and it felt compassion. It watched you descend into the basement in stage 2, and it held the light. It watched you wrestle with the critic in stage 3, and it remained calm. It was always there. You just couldn't feel it through the static. Now the static is gone, and you can finally hear the still small voice. There is a beautiful image in the Hebrew scriptures of the prophet Elijah. He is hiding in a cave, despairing, alone. He is told that God will pass by. First, there is a great wind, so powerful it splits mountains. But God is not in the wind. Then there is an earthquake. God is not in the earthquake. Then there is a fire. God is not in the fire. And then, after the fire, there is the sound of a still small voice, or as some translations say, a gentle whisper, or a sound of sheer silence. When Elijah hears this, he covers his face. This is the encounter with the divine, not in the dramatic, but in the quiet. Your inner companion speaks in that gentle whisper. It does not shout. It does not command. It simply is. And in its presence, you are home. The birth of this companion changes your relationship to the external world in a fundamental way. You no longer go to people to fill a void. You go to people to share from your fullness. You are no longer a beggar at the table of life, hoping for scraps of attention. You are a guest who brings a dish to share. The loneliness that drove you into this journey has been transmuted into a precious aloneness, a solitude that is not empty, but full of presence. You can be in a crowded room and feel this companion within you. You can be in a silent house and feel its warmth. It is the friend who never leaves. It is the parent who always understands. It is the lover who accepts you completely. It is you in your deepest, most authentic form. This is not narcissism. It is the opposite of narcissism. Narcissism is a frantic search for external reflection to prove you exist. The inner companion is the end of that search. You know you exist. You can feel it, and from that knowing, you can truly love others, not because you need them, but because love is the natural overflow of a full heart. Stage 7. The rhythm of resilient return. You have reached a place of profound inner stability. You have met your companion. You feel whole. But life, as it always does, will test this wholeness. This is the 7th stage, and it is not a destination. It is an ongoing practice, the rhythm of resilient return. No matter how integrated you become, no matter how strong your container, no matter how present your inner companion, you will still have days where the old hooks seem to reappear. You will still have moments where the critic's voice rises from its quiet corner and shouts an accusation. You will still feel, sometimes, the cold wind of loneliness, even with your companion by your side. This is not a regression. This is not a failure. This is the nature of being human. The psyche is not a static achievement. It is a living, breathing ecosystem. Storms will come. The question is not whether you will be knocked down. The question is, how quickly will you return to your center? Jung often spoke of the importance of the symbolic life, the ability to hold tension between opposites. The ultimate opposite you must now hold is the tension between your wholeness and your brokenness. You are both. You are the one who has done the deep work, and you are the one who will still make mistakes. The integration of these two truths is the final key. Most people, when they stumble after a period of growth, add a second wound onto the first. They fail, and then they fail themselves again by judging the failure. I should be past this by now. What's wrong with me? All that work for nothing. This secondary judgment is what creates a spiral. It takes a temporary wobble and turns it into a prolonged collapse. The rhythm of resilient return refuses this secondary wound. Imagine a master archer. They do not hit the bullseye every time. An arrow flies wide. The master does not throw the bow on the ground and declare themselves a failure. They observe where the arrow landed. They adjust their stance. They nock another arrow. They shoot again. The miss is just data. It is information for the next attempt. This is how you must now treat your stumbles. You procrastinated for 3 days? Observe it. What was the trigger? What were you avoiding? Adjust. Begin again. No lecture. No self-flagellation. Just a return to the practice. The rhythm of resilient return is built on a foundation of profound self-forgiveness. It is the understanding that you are a work in progress, and the work is never finished. The goal is not perfection. The goal is return. The Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold lacquer, teaches us that the breaks and repairs become part of the object's beauty and history. Your stumbles are not erasures of your growth. They are the gold seams in the pottery of your soul. They show where you have been mended. They add character and depth. In practical terms, this rhythm is a daily, sometimes hourly, practice. You wake up and your mind is already in the future, worrying. Return. You are in a conversation and you feel the old hook of needing approval catching. Return. You make a mistake and the critic starts its familiar tirade. Return. 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 Each return is a rep. It is a repetition that strengthens the muscle of consciousness. Each time you choose to come back to your center, you are voting for the person you are becoming over the pattern you are leaving behind. This is the final law of the solitary journey. It is not about building a fortress that can never be breached. It is about becoming so skilled at rebuilding that a breach is merely an interruption, not a defeat. It is about the deep cellular knowledge that you can fall and you can rise. You can be lost and you can find your way home. You can be alone and you can discover that you are in the best company. This rhythm becomes your heartbeat. It is the pulse of a life lived consciously. It is the dance between effort and surrender, between falling and rising, between the one and the many. And it is yours. So here we are. We have walked through the 7 stages, the collapse of the false self, where the masks fell away, the descent into the basement, where we met our prisoners, the encounter with the inner critic, where we differentiated from the judge, the withdrawal of the hooks, where we reclaimed our power from the world, the construction of the inner container, where we built a self we could trust, the birth of the inner companion, where we discovered we were never truly alone, and the rhythm of resilient return, where we learned the art of beginning again. This journey is not a luxury. It is a necessity for anyone who wants to live a life that is truly their own. The world will constantly try to sell you a version of yourself that is convenient for its systems. It wants you dependent, reactive, and easy to predict. Your solitude is the rebellion against that. It is the space where you defraud the expectations of the collective and mint the currency of your own soul. The people who walked beside you may never understand this journey. They may see your solitude as a problem to be solved, a sadness to be fixed. Let them. You do not need them to understand. You need only to understand yourself. And now, you are well on your way. Carl Jung, in his autobiography Memories, Dreams, Reflections, wrote near the end of his life, "The more uncertain I have felt about myself, the more there has grown up in me a feeling of kinship with all things." This is the fruit of the solitary path. It does not lead to isolation. It leads to a deeper connection with everything, because you are no longer relating to the world through the filters of your own unexamined pain. You are relating to it from the ground of your own being. You are solid enough to truly meet the other. You are whole enough to appreciate the parts. If you are in the early stages of this journey, if you are still in the rubble of the collapse, be gentle with yourself. Do not rush. The soul has its own timetable. Trust the process. Trust the silence. Trust that you are being led, even when you cannot see the guide. The path is under your feet, even in the darkness. And if you are further along, if you have tasted the presence of the inner companion, know that your work now is to embody this presence in the world, to be a quiet lighthouse for others who are still lost in their own storms, not by preaching but by simply being. Your presence, calm and centered, is a teaching. It says to the world, without words, it is possible to stand alone. It is possible to be whole. It is possible to return. Thank you for walking this path with me. If these words have resonated, if they have named something in you that you have been unable to name yourself, please share this video. It may be the map someone else needs to find their way out of the wilderness. And if you want to continue exploring the depths of the human psyche, to understand more about the architecture of the soul, consider subscribing. Not to a channel, but to a journey. The journey inward. The only journey that ever really matters. The music will fade. The video will end. But the silence that follows, that is where you will find yourself again.